I wonder if you are familiar with the symbol of medicine. It is usually a pole with a snake coiled or mounted on it. Ang tawag dito ay the rod of Asclepius. It is also present in Greek mythology. But there is also a biblical background to it. It is what you heard in today's first reading from the book of Numbers. Sabi nila, naging symbol of modern medicine, yung serpent mounted on a pole, because modern medicine or modern medical science discovered that the snake's poison or venom, yung kamandag ng ahas, can actually be processed into a therapeutic drug that can heal certain diseases. Hindi ba yon paradoxical? The very substance that kills can be transformed into a substance that saves lives. Well, do you remember what the Israelites complained about when they got sick of the food that God was giving them in the desert? Yung manna. Listen to the complaints. And you heard it in the first reading. Bakit ba pinalabas mo pa kami mula sa Ehipto para lang mamatay sa disyerto kung saan walang pagkain, walang inumin? Sawang-sawa na kami sa walang kwentang pagkain na ito. Imagine that. Saying that to God. They say, una, wala daw pagkain. Meron eh. Because God was sending them manna in the desert. The point is, meron pero sawang-sawa na kami. Nakakasuka na. Yun na lang ng yun. They were looking for something else. Well, they are longing for all the delicacies that they enjoyed while they were still in Egypt. Para bang sinasabi nila na mas mabuti pa yata, hindi na tayo lumaya. At least masarap ang kinakain natin while we were in Egypt. Is this the price of freedom? Alam niyo ba kung bakit siya tinawag na manna? Actually, the Hebrew word is manhu. It's a question. And the question is, what is that? And you have to say it with a tone, not a tone of curiosity, but a tone of disgust, in order to get what it means. What is that? Mas matunog sa Tagalog. Ano ba yan? So imagine these people saying that to God. No wonder the writer of the book of Numbers says, na-offend si God. Parang naisip ko dito, isang nanay na nasaktan sa sinabi ng anak niya. Di ba minsan, may magbatang mapili ng pagkain. Nagtrabaho na nga si nanay, namalengke siya, nagluto siya. Tapos, when she served the food, yung anak titingin dun sa ulam, sasabihin niyang, ano ba yan? Yan na naman. Kung ikaw yung nanay, how would you feel about that? Lalo na sa konteksto ng pandemya. Parang sinasabi ni God, stop behaving like spoiled brats. Ano ba yan? Kainin nyo yan. Pagkain yan. Wala kang karapatan na i-reject mo yung biyayang galing sa Diyos, iinsultuhin mo ang Panginoon. Unless you learn to have patience eating this food that is available in the desert, which you call, by the way, wretched food, you will never enjoy the bread of promised land. Magandang thought yun, ha? You have to learn to eat the bread of the desert if you want to enjoy the food of the promised land. And later in the same book, we're told by the storyteller that the Lord actually gave in to them. Nung nagsasawa na sila sa mana, pinadalhan na lang sila ng karne. At anong karne? Pugo, quails. The Lord sent them quails for meat. Kahit dito sa Pilipinas, kumakain tayo ng pugo. Delicacy yan sa Pampanga. And you know what happened? Nung dumating yung mga pugo, the storyteller says, they were so greedy. They ate and ate. Busog na sila, kumakain pa sila until many of them died. Medyo may konting humor dun eh. Anong kinamatay? Katakawan. Kaya nilibing sila. And you know, pati yung lugar ng libingan, nilagyan ng pangalan ni Moises. And the Hebrew name of the graves ay the graves. Pakinggan nyo muna sa Hebrew. Kivrot Hatava. Ang translation sa Tagalog, libingan ng katakawan. And in today's reading, of course, hindi na quails ang padala ng Panginoon, kundi mga snakes, mga ahas. Siguro kung mga Pinoy ito sa Israel, baka hinuli nila yung ahas at niluto din nila. No? But let's not get too literal because the serpents here are symbolic. Moses is told by God to get a snake and to coil it, mount it on a pole. Ang sabi niya, anyone who is bitten by the snake, who looks at the mounted serpent on the pole, will be healed. Again, the paradox. The very thing that caused them death now becomes their means of salvation. It reminds me of what St. Paul says in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 21. For our sake, he made him to be sin who did not know sin, so that we might become the righteousness of God in him. And you know, in the time of the early fathers, they even, went to the extent of calling the sin of Adam a happy sin, o felix culpa, o happy faults. At totoo naman, kahit ayaw natin yung nagkakasala, kahit ayaw nating pumapalpak, kahit ayaw nating nabibigo, pagkatapos ng panahon, pagbabalik tanaw natin, somehow we realized mayroon ding dinulot na kabutihan sa atin. Fast forward, when Jesus is already hanging on the cross, John recalls the words of the prophet Zechariah to suggest that these words of the prophet have been fulfilled. And the prophet says, when they look on him whom they have pierced, they will mourn for him as one mourns for an only child, and they will grieve for him as one grieves over a firstborn. But by beholding him mounted on the cross, now the gate is open to them for salvation.